Welcome to Missing Persons Case Files, a place where the gone are not the forgotten. What's happening in the forests of North America? How are so many people disappearing only to have their remains found much later, or in many cases, not at all? Are there predators to blame? Giant hair-covered beasts? Or even more terrifying, us as humans? Maybe it's both. Maybe it's neither. These are just a few of the questions we'll look to uncover here on the Missing Persons Case Files. Douglas Legg. Douglas was born on August 11th, 1962. On Saturday, July 10th, 1971, he disappeared. This led to the largest search and rescue ever organized in New York history. This is the story of 8-year-old Douglas Legg, or Dougie, as he was known to family and friends. Dougie loved hiking and fishing. His family was extremely well off financially. His mother was the co-founder of the Melvin and Melvin law firm in Syracuse, New York. In 1953, the Santanoni Preserve was purchased by Dougie's grandparents, who were also not hurting one bit for money. It was purchased to hold family vacations and get-togethers. It was a 13,000-acre retreat located just south of the Adirondack Mountains. Once you enter the preserve, you reach this amazingly beautiful, over 130-year-old log cabin. It's referred to as the Great Lodge Complex. About 4.5 miles past there, and along the Newcomb Lake, you arrive at the main lodge. In total, there are 45 buildings on this property, all being the same rustic architecture from the late 1800s and early 1900s. The entire family were enjoying one last summer vacation before the preserve was to be shut down for the remainder of the year. Dougie woke up on July 10th very excited due to the plans he had made to go on a hike with his uncle. Dougie loved to hike. He woke up, did some chores, and threw on his favorite hiking clothes and patiently waited for his afternoon hike. About 20 minutes into the hike, his uncle saw some poison ivy on the trail. Not wanting Dougie to get into it, he decided to send Dougie back to the cabin to change into some pants. He had been wearing shorts. It was about a half mile or so back to the cabin. Dougie actually passed his brother and cousin about 50 yards or so away from the cabin. The uncle waited for him to return. He knew it should only take about 30 or 40 minutes for him to make it back. That time came and went, though. The uncle decided to walk back to the cabin to see what was keeping Dougie. But when he made it back, Dougie was nowhere to be seen. The uncle started to ask around, obviously. The brother and cousin were the only two to say they had seen him. The uncle went inside and saw that the pants Dougie was supposed to be putting on were in the bedroom. He got the family together and they set out their own search party. They searched into the evening. They then reached out to the police. The following morning, 4 strangers arrived with search dogs, and helicopters were flying above looking for little Dougie. The Plattsburgh Air Force Base actually sent out planes with a new technology called FLIR, which is a camera designed to pick up the heat signature, particularly in body heat coming off of live person or animal. All told, there were more than 1,000 volunteers searching the preserve. The harsh terrain and some heavy rains that came through caused searchers to move very slowly. At one point, though, there was some hope. The dogs picked up on Dougie's scent and were able to follow it through the woods to a very swampy pond. They then called for a team to come out and drain the pond and dredge the bottom. Then on the 5th day, they found some shoe prints they believed to belong to the boy. out near Ward Pond, which was about 1.5 miles around and on the other side of the lake. After a week of searching, the family chartered a plane to go and pick up an elite team of mountain searchers from the Sierra Madre Mountains. However, they were in no way familiar with this type of terrain, and they were not able to help. After 6 weeks, the search was called off, 1 month prior to Dougie's 9th birthday. One of the craziest parts of this case was that a search party with bloodhounds picked up Douglas's scent at one point, not the scent that led to the pond, but one that led into the mountains. They tracked this scent for over 30 miles. The handlers thought there had to be some kind of mistake. There's no way it could have went this far. And they tried to pull the dogs off of the scent, but they would go right back to it. The trail eventually went cold, and the scent was lost. There were sightings and findings in the years after. In 1973, a hunter was on military leave when he came across a skull and other human remains. For whatever reason, though, he wasn't supposed to be in that area and was worried about getting in trouble, so he didn't report it. He came forth 20 years later in 1993, but they were unable to find anything in that area. What happened to Dougie Legg? All right, I got Tiffany here. Just read over some of the notes from this case, and we are going to go over it, give some of our opinions and some of the stuff that we had found. And before I turn it over to you, Tiffany, I just want to, that last part that I read about the gentleman finding a skull and then not reporting it for 20 years, does that not sound so much like the Dennis Martin case? I mean,
it really does.
Yeah, someone did the same thing with that one. I don't know if we should believe these people or what, but give us an overall, what's your overall opinion of this case?
Well, it's baffling. It is gut-wrenching. And I really feel bad for his uncle. And why would you send your 8-year-old nephew on a half-mile hike in bear country? Why not just go with him? You know, why risk it? It's poison ivy. I would rather have my kid itch and know where he's at.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah, the whole thing, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like how, you know, the terrain, the volunteers, 1,000 people, and then to be missing for 40 minutes. I mean, less than an hour and you're gone.
Yeah. I mean, how is it even possible? How do you fathom that? How can you fathom that? You can't. I've got an 11-year-old, my 11-year-old Caden. I wouldn't send him on a half-mile walk through the woods by himself, even if it's a place we've been going to for years that he was familiar with. There's no way. I mean, you walk with him. I don't know. Yeah. A lot of people, did you see anywhere, Tiffany, where people kind of blamed or questioned the uncle that thought maybe he was involved?
I did, and I saw where they questioned him, but, you know, everything he said, they dismissed him as being, you know, there wasn't any foul play involved. The uncle wasn't involved. You know, I think he had the boy's best interest at heart, but at the same time, you know, I mean, he's 8 years old. He's a curious little boy, whether he knows that area or not. And from what I understand, I mean, he loves hiking, so he knows, you know, he should know the rules and then, you know, but that curiosity and those little kids, if they see something and, you know, something, oh, look at this rock or look at this stick. And then there you go.
Squirrel.
Exactly. And they're gone.
Yeah. One thing that leads me to think that the uncle didn't have anything to do with it is Dougie's brother and cousin saw him on his way back, saw him right before he made it to the cabin. It says like 50 yards away from the cabin. So he was seen. So that part is true. He did walk back by himself. But what happened those last 50 yards? And I'd like to know from the brother and the cousin, was it just they saw him in passing and then didn't pay him any attention? Or what exactly happened, you know?
Was he with somebody else? Because they were there for their last vacation. So there had to have been other family members there. Did they question anybody else or just the uncle?
Yeah, I didn't see any parts of that. Like you, I read a few things. I watched several YouTube videos. Yeah, I mean, no one was ever accused. There were no charges filed against anybody. No formal accusations were made against anyone. So that leads me to believe that the authorities believe that the uncle didn't have anything to do with it. But then you got to understand how well off, how rich this family was.
Right.
Rich people can make things disappear. I'm not at all saying that's the case at all, because everything I've read, these people were heartbroken over the loss of their child, but money makes people look the other way.
It does in so many cases, and it's unfortunate. So many things get covered up. Money talks, and money can carry on a full conversation and make things disappear. And how, my question would be, just as it would be with all of the people, not just children, that go missing, is how do they end up so far away in such a short amount of time?
Yes.
He's 8 years old. I know that they can wonder and don't realize how far they've gone, but 30 miles is a long ways away for anybody to walk, much less an 8-year-old little boy.
Yeah, that's why the searchers in that team tried several times to pull the dogs off. There's no way an 8-year-old boy walked this far in that short amount of time. But how else did his scent get there?
Right.
Was he carried?
Yeah, was he carried? Because bloodhounds, I mean, they are trained from the time they are puppies to pick up on all these different scents and smells, and they're not going to go off on some stray rabbit trail.
But as I say, was he carried? It kind of hit me. If he was carried, would that leave a scent? Or is his scent his actual feet touching the ground and walking through the shrubs and stuff like that? So if he was carried, I don't know that he would have left a scent. I don't know how that works.
Well, I mean, he could be carried to a point, but if they found his shoe prints, then that would indicate that he was walking at least a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the dogs that followed his scent for 30 miles.
Yeah.
He had to have been on foot for a lot of that for them to have that scent.
I would think so. Walked or drug. I mean, but there would be, and it never fails that it rains in these missing person cases.
What is up with that?
Always. It's like nature's way of covering up something that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's very well said.
Yeah, because it washes away every scent, every track, everything that could lead to the possible finding of these people.
And a lot of these cases, we're not talking just rain, like a summer sprinkle, a summer shower. We're talking like heavy torrential downpours, like unusually hard storms that come through. I don't know. That's weird. That's weird.
It is. Yeah, it is very weird. And I know the question was posed too, well, if the parents were so well-to-do, why did they wait so long into the search to have these, trained men brought from California to search? Why not have them come out first? But I could see, okay, it's just been less than an hour since the little boy went missing. He clearly can't be but so far away. So they're not going to drop everything and call these people and say, hey, my kid's missing. Well, he's been gone less than an hour. So
let's go through the normal speculations. First one we've talked about, he just got lost. He stepped off trail and got disoriented and got lost. That's very possible. It probably is what happened to begin with. But it doesn't explain why no sign of him was ever found, or he wasn't found. So the next one would be abduction. We've talked about the uncle being cleared. This was a family-owned place, 13,000 acres. There shouldn't have been anybody there but family. But no trespassing signs don't keep people out. Always, we know that. Have you given any thought to an outsider abducting him?
Well, I mean, and I've thought about it. If somebody was there that shouldn't have been there, maybe knew that the family was well to do. I mean, I know it was 1971, but I mean, there were still bad people in 1971.
Oh yeah.
So maybe they could have had the idea of taking him, maybe for ransom.
Yeah.
And something went wrong.
I wonder if anybody considered that, because that has never popped into my head until you just said that. They were very rich people. Not just, the mother was part founder of a law firm, and then 20 years before that, her parents were wealthy enough to buy this 13,000 acre preserve just for the family. So they had money.
Yeah.
So was it a case of someone got in there and took the youngest one and was going to ransom him off, and then something happened? You killed the boy on accident, and oh shit, what are we going to do now? We can't. You still would have tried, I would think.
Right.
Because you hear that a lot. People kidnapping someone for ransom and then killing the kidnapped person anyway. So I don't think that would have stopped them. I don't know. That's interesting.
It's interesting because you have to brainstorm and culminate all these ideas together, and kind of put yourself in that 8-year-old boy's shoes. But then at the same time, I mean, you could go so many ways with this, as far as family relation to him missing, was the uncle in on it? As far as wanting the money, you would have to know so many parts. But yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of secrets that we don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The next scenario that pops into my mind is animal attack, but I'm quick to rule that out because those are messy as hell.
Right.
If a bear got him, I mean, it's nasty. It's terrible to think about, but there would be a mess. There would be parts of this boy all over the woods.
Well, and you got to think too, I mean, he wouldn't go down quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to let somebody know. And if you're only half a mile away, you're going to hear the animal itself plus the cries out from the little boy.
Yeah. Absolutely. So to that point, nothing was heard. No blood, no clothing, nothing like that was ever found. It could have been a case where he went missing, got off trail, and like the next day an animal could have gotten him, but still you would have found signs of that.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think we can rule that one out. The next one, let's get a little weird with it. Paranormal, like our show, Paranormal Odyssey. Everyone likes to talk about the big guys, Bigfoot. Is it possible a Bigfoot got him? I think it's 100% possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's absolutely possible.
I think it has to be factored in. In this case, everything has to be factored in, including the weird and unusual.
Absolutely.
And makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, we've all heard many, many times that these things are fascinated with children, that they watch them. And there's been several cases of them trying to get kids. I mean, what better what better opportunity did they have? They're watching this kid and his uncle walking, and then, oh God, this is our lucky day. The kid's walking back by himself. Now's our chance. Grab him. That would explain how his scent was 30 miles away. That explains a lot. He was grabbed by some kind of predator, some kind of cryptid, some animal, something got him. And then you have to throw in like feral people.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that on Paranormal Odyssey. I can't speak to New York. I've never been in the Adirondacks, but I mean, is that a part of the Appalachian Trail? Is the Adirondacks?
If I'm not mistaken, I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think that it's yes.
It's certainly in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Weird shit happens on the Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that. I think in this case, you have to really, really consider Bigfoot, feral people, some kind of paranormal, outside the box kind of explanation.
Well, and look, if you look too at the case, there was a child that had fallen into an ape enclosure at the zoo and was injured. And the female ape made it over to the boy to protect him from the alpha male of the group. The little boy who went missing when he was 3, and he came back and he said, the bear took care of me.
Yeah. Yeah. We've covered so many of these stories. Yeah. I mean, myself on all the missing persons cases I've been covering recently, Brian and I over on that Bigfoot podcast has talked about the bears protecting kids, and people have been talking about that since like the early 1800s. There has been tons of reports. I believe if Bigfoot is real, and y'all know I believe that they're real, I believe that they have some compassion. There's a level of compassion and some emotions there, and I think it's very possible that a mother Bigfoot might take a child under its wing and care for it.
Right. You got to think too, if he did step off the trail, not paying attention to where he was going, and got lost, and he was sitting somewhere crying, if a female Bigfoot is around, she's going to hear those cries, and it's going to draw her curiosity and bring her closer to him. And that, an 8-year-old boy, that would scare the pants right off of him. But at the same time, if she just scoops him up and they're gone, nobody's going to really hear him scream. And would he even have the wherewithal to scream?
Yeah. Yeah. And that leads you to think, well, what happened if a Bigfoot did get him? It's all speculation. Everything we're talking about, we're speculating because we don't know. It's been since 1971. It's 2024, and this boy's never been seen again. So no one knows. So all we're doing is speculating. But if this was the case and a Bigfoot got him, what's he doing now? Oh, and what happened? Did they accidentally kill the boy?
Right.
Is he living with them up in the mountains somewhere today? I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. Are there caves in that area? You got to factor in the weather, because it's going to have this torrential downpour for days looking for this poor little boy. Are there caves maybe they took him to? Like you said, did they accidentally, trying to protect him, get too rough with him and in his life? Or like you said, because he would be 59 today. Is he one of the feral people? That's a little sideways. No.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's possible, I guess. I don't know. Something else you got to take into consideration. It gets very cold in New York. This boy was in shorts and a t-shirt. He was not equipped to deal with the winters of New York. So someone had, if he did last any time, someone had to have been helping him and protecting him. I don't know. I know it sounds silly. I know there's going to be people out there that listen to this and think, these are two grown-ass people over here talking about Bigfoot taking a kid. We understand how it sounds, and it can sound a bit ridiculous. But there's been reports, people, and we're not calling everyone liars. People have been reporting this stuff since the 1800s. Okay? We're just talking about possibilities, and I think it is very possible. If you think Bigfoot is real, then it's very possible this kid was taken by one, because they are definitely, by all reports, prominent in the Adirondack Mountains. I know a couple of researchers up there myself personally that research that area and do very well. So they're up there. So again, we're not saying that this is what happened. We're just talking about possibilities.
And again, I think it's a huge possibility. We can't rule anything out at all.
Absolutely. You're going to have people out there that question us. Why didn't you talk about aliens? Why couldn't he have been abducted by aliens? And I guess he could have.
Yeah. Aliens, portals.
Portals.
bring portals into the mix. If we're going to, I don't really foresee him having been abducted by aliens because it was during the day, it was in the middle of the afternoon. I think that would have been very noticeable if that would have happened. But you hear of missing people who are there one minute and they're gone the next. And how do you explain that? Portals are scientifically proven, like it or lump it. And it's a major possibility that that is what happened as well.
I don't know. All I know is this is tragic. It's absolutely heartbreaking. It was a case, I'm 45 years old, and this is the first time I had ever heard of it. It just, when I started looking into missing people, just leads me to believe that there's a lot more out there. Similar circumstances. I mean, the one I just covered, the Jared Negretti, the same thing. He's walking with his scouts. He was a scout, and he was walking with them and just disappeared. He fell behind, and the boy disappeared and was never seen again. No remains, nothing. There's a lot of similarities in these first two cases, and I don't know what to make of it. I don't, and unfortunately, I'm afraid that I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah, I think in these two cases, and I'm sure cases that are covered in the future, we're going to find that there are a lot more questions than there are answers. And that's the unfortunate part of all of this.
I think you are 100% correct. All right, I think that's a good place to leave this one. Again, people, this is a segment that we're going to be doing. Tiffany's going to be helping me on these because we work together on the YouTube stuff. All of these cases we're going to be releasing to YouTube and to podcasts. So if you guys have any suggestions, I've got several people on my list to look into that have come from some suggestions from you people, from our listeners, our followers. So please keep those coming in. You can get me at Wayne at Paranormal World Productions, or you can get Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. But yeah, guys, be looking for these in the future. All right, you got anything before we get out of here?
I don't. Just tune in for the next episode, and it will be as thrilling as this one.
Sounds good. All right, guys, until we talk to y'all again, y'all take care of yourselves.